Welcome back to my walkthrough. This is the Path of the Crimson Flower, where we will cover the Battle of Garreg Mach. Now, previously in the last video, I talked about how that was the conflict in the Holy Tomb was the breaking point, and some of you are thinking, why? There's another battle after this that almost everyone goes through. Not true. If in the Path of the Crimson Flower you went with Edelgard to Enbarr for her to become emperor, and chose to side with her, you will now be fighting, or shall I say, invading Garreg Mach. So this will be the opposite of the other battles, and obviously this will be dependent on which path you choose to take. Now your battles will largely be the same. Really, you pick who you want to pick. This isn't a contest. I mean, at this point, your characters should be powerful enough to take on the enemies in the first half of this game. If they weren't, well, you really have a lot of prep to do. You don't get much of a chance after this anyway, so if you weren't ready, I suggest going way back past the Battle of the Conflict of the Holy Tomb and train a little bit more. Your enemies are around, I'd say, the mid-20s. Now, there's a lot of enemies on this map, but you also have allies. And the good news is you have no obligation to keep them alive, although it's recommended.
Friends, our defender should be wary.
Now, the objective is to just rout the enemy and avoid all your units dying. But obviously, it's going to be really bad at this point if Edelgard dies. Because, well, morale reasons. So first, I'm actually going to do something rather different.
I will get the victory.
Actually, going to have Ferdinand break through the sides. While Edelgard and Byleth go straight down.
Ready.
Ingrid will be very helpful in flying over a lot of obstacles. Although at the end of the day, she's probably got to contend with the same obstacles as everybody else. Now,
As you wish.
Failure is not an option.
no real surprise, if you don't protect your allies, they're gonna go down pretty quickly at this fight. I wish I didn't have to say that, but it's kind of true. Your allies kind of suck. They're just kicking ass now because obviously, well, it's the beginning. They run up against the enemy commanders, well, they are going to die. That is, I can personally attest to seeing that happen multiple times. So please, 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 make your way up properly and give them proper support. Now, Ingrid's taking a very speedy approach, shall I say. I'll actually have Hubert smash this wall so that we can now have Caspar and Linhardt join the allies on the right. Just do some cleaning up here. Nothing too major. This is just going to be a huge full-on frontal assault. You keep your teams together properly, and you won't have too much of a problem. If you were having too much of a problem at this point, you're, again, as I emphasized, you are not ready for this battle.
You weren't ready. Nice try. Defenseless, are we?
I love
I did
killing
what I had
lances.
to.
Or killing weapons in general. They're very powerful and useful.
My technique could.
At a certain point, enemies will... Well, I want to say ambush, but they're really... It's really bad if you're already weakened at this point and you haven't properly managed your resources wisely. They'll appear if you've extended your units to a certain point. But again, nothing to worry about. Now, as you probably noticed, that one unit who just jumped in, he got killed pretty fast. So, when I say
All roses.
your ally units will die quickly, they'll die quickly. That wasn't a joke.
Got him.
I'm surprised.
Now there are some healing tiles here, but you will risk provoking the boss of that side if you do. In this case, in the left-hand side, it's Gilbert. On the right-hand side, that's Flame. No spoilers. If you're seeing this battle, you know what's happened. So I really should not have to go through that. If things are too tough for you, you can always use a gambit and wear down your enemies one step at a time.
You a plan?
Gambits are always a great way to deal damage and and do something to the opponent at the same time. When, and this is the bonus, they can't retaliate. Nothing is better than that. Well, okay, I'll lie. There are some things that are better than that, but still. Okay. Byleth is just gonna crush Seth because reasons.
Set it. Please, do not.
I'm sorry, Flame.
And well, I'll just take out this
Your
mage.
defeat was inevitable.
And Edelgard will most likely be tanking and taking care of everything else.
You shall not pass.
Fortunately, no matter how you train Flame,
Must protect.
she's always going to be the same, I guess, she's going to status as she did the first time? I don't really know how to say it, but her stats are fixed. So no matter how strong or weak she was, in this case strong, she's going to take a little bit of a step back so that she's not as overpowered for this mission.
Don't worry, we're allies.
At some point, the Death Knight will now provide additional reinforcements, which you actually needed because, well, your previous reinforcements or allies were pretty terrible.
That is that.
And now, if you remember having to fight the Death Knight in previous missions, he was real hard to take down. In this mission, however, you now get that power for yourself because he's going to fight you like an ally. Alongside you as an ally. Goodness, I'm really
Your
bad with these
defeat was
words.
inevitable. Failure is not an option.
As expected.
Yeah, anything the Death Knight touches is pretty much going to turn to dust. I really didn't have to. I didn't have to say too much when that happened. Now you'll also notice that if you chose to do a frontal assault, you're blocked by a bridge. Unless you've got a nice door key, which you most likely did not remember to bring with you for a bunch of reasons that are actually very understandable, you're most likely going to have to break it open from the side. First, I'll just take care of that. You could also have a flyer fly over. But again, that's another scenario entirely. Most likely, you're going to have to smash open that gate. Nothing wrong with that, just remember, if you didn't bring a door key, you're smashing open the gate. Keep in mind that there's no good entrance from the edge. You'll have to make your way between the buildings in order to... And I know what you're thinking. What are you doing? You made Ferdinand run away from the fight. Actually, it's a lot easier to kill off Gilbert with magic, so Dorothea switched out with Ferdinand.
My master's name.
It would be really ironic if Annette killed him off, but you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Put your lives on the line to protect
Now, as you might have guessed, once you take out Seteth, Flayn, and Gilbert, Rhea appears with, and I mean this literally, it's not just herself. She brings a really big army, backed by Catherine
I'll crush them all.
and Cyril.
Her enemies are...
However, as you've noted, the win condition doesn't change to defeat the enemy commander. So really, all you have to do is target Rhea. Now, I did mention that you had to break these walls or get the door keys, but if you've defeated the other three commanders, like I have, the doors will just open by themselves, completely bypassing that. But the reason why that's important to note is if you've used up all of your unit's movement and other such precious resources, because movement and usable characters is an important resource,
Your defeat
well,
was
you've basically
inevitable.
just screwed yourself in a situation. So it's significantly better to make sure that you either have a door key, you break open a wall, or whatnot. Oh, and by the way, in order to even get to this point, you must have taken out Seteth, Flayn, and Gilbert. So this was just an unavoidable part. I'm not gonna keep that. Now, as you might expect, Catherine and Cyril are pretty tough enemies. And the enemy is also very nicely positioned on a ballista and another on what appears to be a sort of magic arrow place. I never get the name right. Fire orb. There we go. A fire orb. Now, there's another ballista and fire orb, respectively, on the other side, but the most important thing is that, well, they start the fight already positioned on both the ballista and the fire orb. So you're going to have to keep that in mind as you progress. Now, these golems that will charge down the middle are really tough. If you can't beat them very easily, because they are actually quite strong despite my character builds, get out of there as soon as you can and just focus on a side. Remember, the mission objectives have changed, so if you've taken down the commanders, there's no real need to start taking everybody else down. That being said, I'm still going to smack down a wall because it will make things a lot easier in the future. just realized that Caspar might be using training gauntlets. Oops. No matter. Not important. As I said, these golems are tough, so they don't pursue you terribly far, but if you don't have enough power or reach to get to them, you don't have the power or reach to get to them. Don't force it. At this point, this is all about taking down your enemies as fast as possible, not about, oh, well, how should I take them down? For the monsters, don't worry about breaking these 4 yellow blocks like you would normally the first time. Break a block as soon as you can, and then just keep attacking it. Keep attacking that empty square as long as your opponent hasn't recovered or is about to use their usual attack on you.
I gotta kill you.
As I said, the Death Knight is gonna be fine. If you're really concerned, heal him up. Oop. Caspar is taking a bit of dangerous damage.
My heart is full of victory.
Imagine having the Death Knight as a playable character. He's even more unfair than I am. And that's saying something.
Lady Rhea.
Soon.
Now, I know she says that and it sounds like he's died, but no spoilers, you also know that the other half of the game takes place 5 years from now. So you're well aware nothing bad happens.
You saved me.
Just gonna heal. Grid up. This is not class. Your enemies don't really have a classic mode. They die when the game requires them to die. Have it. Having him use training gauntlets. No wonder things were so weird. Anyways, the reason why punching those walls might be a better move in the long run is because, as you might notice, they position you very close to the Ballistae and the Fire Orb. So if you can get your units over there, you have a decent, good to fair chance, and I don't mean that lightly, you have a good to fair chance of taking them out before they become a threat.
It's over.
If they are still a threat to you. As you might know, this battle is going to take a while just due to the nature of things, so don't be discouraged if it's taking a while. Take your time, because the more you rush, the harder this battle eventually becomes. Because enemies can and will prey on your poor decisions.
I owe you one.
Failure is not an option.
Now, I'm actually going to skip this just for the beautiful moment of having Byleth take down Catherine.
Let this be a lesson.
It's a particularly hard moment in the game, especially if you developed an attachment to Rhea, Catherine, and her team, but,
All is well, Catherine.
well, you picked this path, so I can't really say you should be surprised at your life choices, is all I'm going to say there. That sounds like a dick thing to say, but, I mean, again,
More success.
This is just one of the many endings. So if this really bothers you, pick another one the next time you run through this game.
You should be on.
New Game Plus is really fun. Or more enjoyable, I should say.
I aim for greatness. Your defeat
Now that's
was
every unit down, but again, it's not easy to get to this stage, so if you have to, rush. But again, it's a lot easier to rush when there are few enemies. Now you also might have noticed that there are ballista and fire orbs here, and why I didn't bother using them. Put it this way, their range is limited, and you really have to deal with these golems first before they even become viable. And if you're able to deal with them as easily as you have just seen, or as I have just demonstrated, you probably don't really need them anyway. But they're very helpful in giving people who are far away a better advantage, or at least a better outlet for you to get some help.
you worth.
No one survives a 120 damage hit. Now, despite all odds, Rhea doesn't transform into that giant monster that you saw. So that is basically the Battle of Garreg Mach done on normal casual like a scrub. Well, that was the walkthrough and just everything to expect. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. There will be more like these in the future. And after this, you will battle, like the others, you will be taken to the real path, the ending that you've chosen. And in this case, this is the Crimson Flower. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you